Hello everybody and welcome to the show. This is Andy's Shed Live Series 8 Episode 11 for this Sunday the 14th of March 2021. Hello there and welcome to the show. We are here with you once again and it's going to be an interesting one today. Restoring the worst phone ever, as it said on the title card. That is what we are going to be up to today when we just get going. So yeah, we're just powering up all the systems here at the moment. It's all sort of coming to life, I do believe. I'm just looking, so you've got quite a few of you already there in the chat this evening. Always good to see. Just waiting for things to start up, which you should be doing any moment now. Yes, there they are. Right, and there is the live chat. So who have we got here? We've got Jimmy is here, Kieran is here, Fat Hobbit's here, Wesley's here, Christopher's here. Yeah, everybody is here. One or two people saying, have you got me emails? And that the answer to all of you is yes, I have. Yes. So I've had a heck of a lot of email over the last sort of 24 hours or so. So yeah, so we've got a lot on today, and of course we're now over that magic 1,000 subscribers mark as well, which is absolutely great news. You may have seen a few adverts as well. Now that we've got over the 1,000 subscribers mark, you shouldn't at this stage be seeing any mid-roll ads, and that's ads that sort of break the show up in the middle. You'll probably see an ad when you first log on before, and you'll probably see an ad when we get to the end, but you shouldn't be seeing any in the middle. If you do see anything in the middle, please let me know, because YouTube's put them there and they shouldn't have. But I hate mid-roll ads, so I'm trying to avoid having them. If you want to get in touch with us for that or any other reason, remember you can do. You can contact us initially through our contact us form on the website, which is here at andyshed.colepress.net. That's the website, and we're trying to keep it up to date with all the latest episodes and things on there as well at the moment. So we are trying our best to keep the website up to date, but it's tricky, so just bear with us please as we try to do that. Sorry, I'm getting myself all in a mess here at the minute. So yeah, that's the website, and of course you can also support us if you like on Patreon. Patreon.com/AndyShed is the place to go if you want to do that, and there's going to be something very exciting happening if you want to be a patron fairly soon, so watch out for more information on that as well. And remember, we've also got the shop address where we sell a few bits and pieces, which is here, andysemporium.colepress.net. As I said last week, the shop's having a bit of a makeover at the minute, so it's not the tidiest website in the world at the moment, but hopefully that will get a little bit better as time goes on. Right, so here we go then. So as I say, we're going to be restoring the worst phone in the world here tonight. And Wesley already says, are you sure it's the worst, Andy? I took delivery of the Yeoman on Thursday. Why, what's wrong with the Yeoman, Wesley? How many pieces did it arrive in? For a start, that's the first question you have to ask, because I do know somebody who bought one of those and it arrived in literally about 1,000 pieces. So yes, okay. Right, remember you can chat with us if you want to. Something new to tell you as well today. Another way you can support the show if you want today and get your name in lights, well maybe not lights, but maybe get your name on the chat in flashy things, is we can now do super chats. If you're familiar with what a YouTube super chat is, you can now should be able to also do super chats on the chat here as well. Right, okie dokie, we'll crack on, shall we? I'm going to turn this top chat on my phone onto, how do I turn that onto normal chat? I never quite know how to do this. That's it. Right, so that's on normal chat. Unfortunately, I can't put it on normal chat on here. That has to stay on top chat because it won't do it on normal chat for some reason. But yes, we're sort of getting there now, aren't we? Sort of getting somewhere near. If I can press the right button tonight, I'm having terrible trouble pressing the right buttons today for some reason. Do not know why, but I'm having a bit of bother. Right, so we'll crack on, shall we? Yeah, we'll crack on. Right, the worst phone ever. There is a story to this. This is something that was sent in by one of you guys out there, one of our viewers, a few weeks ago now it is, 'cause I've been waiting to do this for quite a while. I got sent this. Can you see that? Now, Wesley has just said that his yeoman, he says, was complete but most disgustingly dirty and dusty phone he's ever received. It's looking much better now though, thankfully. Right, so then Wesley, sorry you've not beat me, I have got the worst phone ever. Because this, well, it's not terribly dirty, but there's not an awful lot of it really, is there? If I put it under this other camera, in amongst all the junk on, I've got so much junk on my desk today. If I put it under this other camera, you'll see there's not really a great deal of it, is there? Apparently, this was rescued from a car boot sale. A guy at the car boot sale was about to throw it in a skip. So it was rescued and then sent to me, along with one or two other bits and pieces. And they said, if anybody can do anything with this, Andy, it's you. See what you can do. It'll make an interesting episode. And I agreed. Then I took a closer look at it. And it's only when you take a really close look at it that you see the gazillion things that are wrong with it. So, what we're going to do, I think, we're going to start by taking the case off. And then I'll be able to show you some of the problems, yeah, that we're going to start with. Okay? Just some of the problems. We're not going to do all this tonight for reasons which will become apparent when I get this case off. Right, starters, that screw drops out. That shouldn't drop out, that should be retained really. But that's the least of our problems, because take the case off. Ta-da! That's what you've got on the inside. Not a lot. So yeah, there's not really a great deal in there. But I'm going to put this bit to one side for a minute, because that's not really the main problem. The main problem is this, which has got everything wrong with it you ever imagined. Right, for a start, it's colour faded. If you look where the dial bezel should be, you'll see it's kind of a greeny colour where it should be Concord blue. So it's started to colour fade. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it has started to go. It has also got a massive crack up the back that has been sort of glued or something by somebody in the past. And I don't know if they've glued it or if they've done the acetone trick on it. I'm hoping they've done the acetone trick and melted the plastic back together, but I've got a nasty feeling they've actually glued it. But the worst thing about this of all is, and I don't know how much it shows up on the camera, if you look at the front, this bit that should hook into the front of the base of the phone is pointing downwards slightly. I'm going to get a better angle to show you. And the reason that's pointing downwards slightly is because all this front edge is bent. Can you see all that's bent? And all this along here, look, is wavy. Look how it's as if it's been hot or something. So all that is bent, and this case would basically be almost beyond restoration. It's almost not worth bothering with. It's all one where we'd almost go, oh no, we're not going to do that. But as Dominic has quite rightly pointed out in the chat, it's not just any 746, it's a Mark 1 746. It's smooth between here and here. It hasn't got that notch sort of cut out between here and here. So it's an early 746. They didn't make these for very long. So that's what kind of makes it a little bit worth restoring. So we're going to have a crack. We're going to see what we can do, and we're going to see if we can sort this out. And we're going to start tonight and probably do some more on it next week, or when we get a spare week or whatever. Because, well, it's going to take quite a bit of doing, I think. Right. So what's everybody saying in the chat? Dominic says he's running a bit late tonight because he's just come back from photographing a local grade 1 listed mill. So sounds like he's had an interesting day. Now there, you missed the pizza as well tonight, Dominic. Sorry, I had it before we came on tonight. Right, so what are we going to do to this? Right, well, the first thing I'm going to have a look at is the back here. And I'm going to try and find out what's happening. It looks to me like there's been a chunk out of this. It looks like there's been a piece here. You see a crack up here that goes up here, but there's also a crack that joins to it here and goes down here. So I think this bit, sort of in the middle of here, sort of triangular bit, I think that's been completely detached at some point, looking at it. So I'm going to run a bit of acetone onto it and see what happens. If it's glue that's on it, I'm hoping it'll melt the glue and the thing will fall apart again. If it's acetone, I'm hoping it'll just make it a bit neater, because it's not been put on perfectly. It's, you know, you can feel the edge. It's not been perfectly lined up. So what we do is we apply a bit of acetone, which I will grab in just a moment. I've got so much stuff down here tonight. So the first thing I need to find is a little paintbrush. Now I've got a little paintbrush specifically for doing this, and it's quite a stiff bristle brush that I just use for putting the acetone on. It'll be even stiffer when it's had acetone and plastic on it, because when it dries out it'll dry rock hard probably. But a very stiff small brush like that is what you need to start with. A very stiff brush. That camera doesn't look quite in focus somehow tonight. That's a bit better. So a very stiff brush like that, and you also need some acetone. Now I get my acetone at one of the pound shops, and it's very important that what you get is 99% acetone. You'll never get 100% acetone, because there's always some impurity in it, but it should say 99% acetone. Now if you see this in the pound shop, be very wary, because in very similar bottles they sell some that is watered down, and that's also a pound, but it's nowhere near 99% acetone. The main ingredient in the watered down stuff is actually water. So you want basically pure acetone or 99% acetone to be able to do this. So what we do is we put the paintbrush in the acetone and just paint it on. Now this is going to make a mess of the plastic on the back probably, but what we're trying to do here is, and I just noticed that crack round here goes all the way up here and round into here, so it's really been smashed this. So what we're trying to do is either melt the glue and get the whole thing apart where it's been broken, or we're trying to just melt enough of the surface of the plastic to kind of disguise the crack, kind of feather either side of the crack so you can't see the crack anymore. Now what we may need to do this is some acetone slurry, which is basically ABS plastic that's been dissolved in some acetone, that makes like a paste that we can put on, and it acts kind of like filler. So we may need some of that. Now I've got some of that I've used before when I've done Concord blue things, and here it is in an old potted meat jar. Right, I'm hoping that the stream is back up now, which I think we should be. I think we should be back up now. For some reason, I monitor the stream on a phone, and for some reason what I was monitoring was way behind tonight what was actually doing. So that was a bit weird. I was looking at the monitor and thinking, oh, it's still going, but it wasn't. It was frozen. So how far did we get? Did we get to me showing you the glass jar full of acetone slurry? And this has dried up. So since I last used it, so that's actually drying there now. But what I'm hoping we can do is, although that's dried up, I'm hoping by putting a little bit of acetone into it, we can reactivate it. And it's only a drop of acetone in there. You can see that, only a drop I've put in. But I'm hoping we can reactivate this while we're on air tonight. So I'm hoping it'll be okay. Dominic says yes, he saw the slurry. No, excuse me, got the sneezers. He says he saw the slurry before the stream went down. Christopher says, I'm watching your live stream on a holiday in Geelong because I was watching a special train at South Geelong from the signal box. The one you see in the live stream in Series 7, episode 36. Crikey, I'm glad you can remember what we did in what episode, Christopher, because I can never remember. You got to pull the signal lever for the special train. Cool. Do they still have yeah, they do still have levers in that box that you pull, don't they? Because I've never seen the pictures, yeah. And Dominic says, yeah, he saw the slurry before the stream went down, so that's all right. So there we go. We'll actually, maybe I'll put a bit more acetone in that because it seems to have almost used it all up already. So I'll just put a bit more in there. And as Taylor Swift would say, we'll give it a shake, 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 shake. Should have put the top on that a bit harder than that. I've got acetone all over me. Right, lovely. People say, wear gloves when you're using acetone. Wear gloves when you're using acetone. And I say, people who say wear gloves when you're using acetone, you're an idiot because it's nail varnish remover. But I get so many people saying, wear gloves when you're using acetone. It's nail varnish remover, for God's sake. You're supposed to put it on your hands. And hopefully we've made it back for the second time tonight. Not doing very well tonight, are we? Hopefully we've made it back again. So yeah, as I was saying, acetone is nail varnish remover. Don't worry about it, people. Right, so we've got various problems with this, and the acetone that I've just put on the back of this phone has dried already. If you can see that there, that's all dried already, and it's kind of starting to disguise the crack a bit, but we do need to put some more on there. I'm just shaking up my my slurry so I can put some of that on in a minute. In fact, I'll try that now. What was that just popped up on my phone? Something odd just popped up on my phone. Oh yeah, it's liquefying. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but where's the camera? It's there. If I can manage to point this at the camera and keep my fat hands out of the way, you'll see this is liquefying nicely, and it's going quite thick on the brush. So what we want to do is put some of this on the back of here, in an attempt sort of fill in any holes. Now you can see there where my finger is, there is a very small hole. Can you see that hole there? Yeah, near the bottom of the shot there. Right, it's right in the middle of the shot now. You can see the depth of the hole. Right, I'm hoping I can fill that hole in with this goo. There, you see, got it. See, it's gone now. Now it'll probably need some more on it to help fill it in, but that is how this acetone slurry can hide cracks and small holes. Now we are going to have to probably sand this down eventually, and then we'll probably have to do it again. You know, just like car body fill, you have to keep putting a bit on and sanding it down, don't you? So we're probably going to keep having that problem and having to do that, but at least it's a start. Now the problem I have with doing this is finding a bit of something that's broken to actually dissolve in the acetone. So what I'm saying here is, when you get your broken phone cases and that, don't throw them away. If you've got no use for a broken phone case or a broken part of a phone or receiver or whatever, send it to me and we'll use it for these acetone repairs. Like this. You just have to put it on over the crack, and hopefully eventually the crack will go away and we'll be left then with something that doesn't look cracked anymore. Now, knowing that we'll need to do it on the inside, but I'm going to do it just see, because the crack is more noticeable on the inside of here. So if I do some of this, hopefully you'll see it disappear more. And of course, if you do it on both sides, it probably will make it a little bit stronger as well. So I just dab it on around the crack, and it's not making it come apart, so I'm quite hopeful that whoever put it together did do it with acetone, because I'm not seeing any clear glue or anything anywhere on it, and it's not making it fall apart or anything, so I'm quite hopeful we will be able to make the damage on this disappear. given time. It's stopped again, says Jimmy. No, it hasn't. Still going at this end, Jimmy. I'm still going here, mate. We're still it's still working here. Dominic says, would you use some fibre or plastic mesh on the inside to strengthen the weld? Probably not, Dominic, no. Because the theory is, if it was car body filler, you would. But when you're using car body filler, you're not actually using the same material that you're trying to repair as the repair. With this, I'm using the material that I'm trying to repair, i.e. ABS plastic, as the repair, i.e. ABS plastic which has been liquefied with acetone. But when the acetone all evaporates off, it will just leave ABS plastic. So in theory, I'm not actually gluing things together. In theory, I'm just putting more of the material from either side of the crack into the crack. So in theory, it will technically all be one piece, not two pieces joined with something else. So you shouldn't really need to do that. You shouldn't really need to strengthen it with anything. It should be okay. Right, so that's all a bit, I don't know if you can see now, but that is kind of just a bit proud of the surface now, most of what I've put on there. So I'm going to leave that to dry for a little while, and now I've got an acetone brush. Now this brush will now, of course, because it's got acetone and blue ABS in it, this will dry rock hard. But don't worry about it, keep it, because next time you do it, the moment you dip it in the acetone, it'll soften again. So don't worry about the fact that your brush dries hard. Yeah, okay, the trouble with these little pots is they don't seal very well. So you have to make sure your acetone's not all evaporated out of them. So you might want to use a better jar than me. You might want to use maybe a jam jar with a better screw top than these little pot and meat jars. So that is on its way, as they say. Right, and while that is on its way, on its way, we'll go back to the chat and we'll have a look at what people are saying in the chat. Wesley says it's akin to welding and a filler rod. Yeah, exactly, Wesley. You've got it in one. It's kind of chemical welding, if you like, what we're doing. That's the way that I describe it. Chemical welding, I think. Is it drying? Yeah, it's just tacky at the minute. You know, it is, but it is drying again. So yeah, it's very akin to welding. So I've just got to leave that and let that dry off for a minute or two. If anybody's got any questions or anything, now is the time. Well, because I've got a few minutes to fill now while that dries. What other bits do I need then on it? Well, I need a dial, obviously. I need bell gongs and their supports. I need a circuit board to go in it. I need a line cord, and I need a bell set as well, and various other things. And I have got a set of bells here all ready to go. Two things wrong with this set of bells though when you look at them. One, it's only got one wire. Let me put it on the other camera. It's only got one wire to the phone. There should be another one connected there, because these bell coils are in series. you know, power goes through one through the other. So it comes in through here, goes through the bell coil, then out through this blue wire, jumpers across to the other bell coil, through that bell coil, then out through this terminal here. So I need to solder another connection onto there. And also it's got one of the little screws that holds it down to the phone underneath it, but I need to find another one because I've only got one here. So I need to find another one of these. Now on this desk there are often screws just sort of laying around. Is there one laying around of that type? I bet there isn't, just because I want one. Let's have a look. No, can't see one. So I might not have one to hand. I've also got a little box of bits and pieces here. I've got one in here. It only has to be a very short screw, that's the thing. It doesn't look like I have. Yeah, it could be one of those. Oh, it could be one of those even. Right, that's a bit longer, but it looks like the same sort of screw. Right. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit longer because... No, not that one. Very slightly the wrong size. That one that I've got there, I thought that one might fit it, but as you can see, it just pushes straight through. So yeah, that's the correct one, and that's the one I thought might fit. There's very, very little difference between them, but it is just enough to make it not work. So back to the drawing board, folks. So I need to go into my spares and find another one of those screws. But what we can do for now is fit this bell coil into place just with the one screw that we've got, and I found a bit of metal stuck to it there because of course bell coils are magnetic. Now you'll see here these two little things here, one of which is higher than the other. That's how they're supposed to be. The bells have to sort of wiggle into there and sort of lock in under that, and getting on to do that is a bit of an art, it has to be said, but it should be just about possible. Right, that's it now. What you have to do is put it on from the back like that, so it's further back than it needs to be, and then this plate on the bottom of the bell coil here, this plate behind the clapper, basically the tops of these things, one of them has to go below it, the low one has to sit below it, so the plate sits on top of the low one, and the high one has to go over the plate. So you have to jiggle it about until they fit, and then it can't lift up at the back then. It can only lift up at the front, and of course it won't be able to lift up at the front in a minute, because I'm going to turn it over and put this little screw in. So that little screw now goes in there. And that doesn't seem to want to hold that. Not down either. I'm wondering if that's the wrong screw as well, really, because it's not very keen on holding that bell set into place. Right, let's try some other little screws that I've got laying around here and see if they'll hold it. No, that won't. That might. Now, what I think I'm doing here is actually re-tapping the hole a bit, but that screw has gone in, and what that actually is, believe it or not, is a computer case screw. Now I wasn't expecting that, because that would probably be metric, and I was expecting it to be imperial. I mean, I don't know. I've not got anything here to measure it with, but I have got one. Oh, have I got another one? Come on, I must have got another one. Those the same, surely. Yeah, one there. Right, so I've got two of those, so maybe I can hold this bell coil down with two of those. I never throw screws on things away. You know, never ever throw a screw away. Put it in a pot, because the day will come when you want it for something. Right. So. Right, I'll turn that over again. Well, I mean, it may be that this was the correct screw. The holes are stripped out, and I'm cutting a new thread, because there's not much thread on them. So it may be I'm cutting a new thread with these computer case screws, but if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. So let's just see if that will actually go in there. Yeah, it will. It holds it down nice and tight, that. Now, it does stand a little bit proud of the base, if you can see that there, but it has got the feet on it, and there are other bits of the base that stick down as well, like here and that, so it's no more proud than them little protrusions. So let's carry on. Well, put another one in. and that's now fitted. And of course it can't lift up at the back because it's under one and over one of those hooky things at the back there. I don't know if you can see that. So that is well and truly fitted. Right, so that's now fitted to the base. So there we go. Right, I'm just going to catch up with what everybody's been saying in the old chat. Jimmy says, I sent it about 10 minutes ago. What did you send, Jimmy? Christopher says, I found a website with all different Ericsson and telephone rentals dial labels on. Yeah, there is one somewhere, but I can't just remember where it is. Wesley says, should there be a couple of plastic washers with those bell coil screws? Good question, Wesley. Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. I don't think it makes a mega amount of difference, because whatever side you put the plastic washer on, it's going to be touching something metal on the other side. So I can't see as it makes a difference. I think maybe there's a plastic washer on the ones that have got a plastic base, because if you look at that, where the bell thing is attached to it, the base is raised up, can you see? And on the plastic ones, I think it might be flat. So I think to make the bell sit level, I think on the ones with a plastic base, I think there may be a washer under there because they've not got that raised bit of the base. I think that might be the case on the ones with a plastic base. I don't know for certain. I can certainly say I can't see any reason why you would want to insulate that. Because it's not insulated from the back anyway. I mean, the same part basically is touching those two standoff things at the back, and they're metal, so it's not any electrical reason. So I'm not quite sure. But if you were to put a plastic washer on the outside, what would that do? Nothing other than try and stop the head of the screw from going through the hole, if it was a screw with a small head on it. But I think when I've seen them, they've been fitted to the inside between the actual bell and the base. I think they've been fitted in there when I've seen them, and I think it's the plastic based ones that haven't got this raised bit. See how this has got a raised bit in the metal? I think the plastic ones haven't. I think that could be the reason for it. Dominic says, would it be possible to have a stream from the loft at some point, Andy? I dare say we can manage that, Dominic. We have done it before, but yeah, I dare say we can do it again. If you join our Repair Cafe Zoom thing, Dominic, on a Thursday evening, and get a pen and paper, I'll give you a Zoom meeting number in a minute. If you join that comes out of the loft every Thursday evening, and of course because it's Zoom you can interact on it. If you've got a webcam and a microphone and that, you can actually talk to us live on it, because it's Zoom. It's a thing called the Repair Cafe, done in association with the team at Repair Sheffield, basically, who fix items for people rather than sending them to landfill. They fix all kinds of different items and that. And since we've been in lockdown and things, we've been doing virtual events. We used to do physical events actually in Sheffield. Since we've been in lockdown though, we've been doing virtual events on Zoom, what we call the virtual repair cafes. If you want to find out more about what Repair Cafe is, go to sheffieldrepaircafe.coldpress.net. So it's another cold press site, just like our website is, but the first bit of it is sheffieldrepaircafe.coldpress.net, and you will find out more about it there. But on a Thursday evening from 7 p.m, that does come out of the loft every week. If you want to join it, you'll be very welcome. The Zoom meeting number that you will need to join it is 806 999 4444. I'll give you that again. It's 806 999 4444, and that comes out of the loft every week. But we'll do a Sunday one out of the loft as well at some point. Fat Hobbit says, yes, I second what Dominic says. It would be great to go live from the loft. Yeah, well, like I was just said, Dominic, Fat Hobbit, join the thing on Thursday. Join the Repair Cafe thing on Thursday. 806 999 4444. Wesley says, I think you're right about the plastic base. Now you say it, I think the washers do fit between the bell and the base. I think they do, Wesley. I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's where the washers come in. Jimmy says, Andy, I'm going early tonight. Ordered a pizza. See you next week. Cheers, Jimmy. See you next time. Enjoy your pizza. I've had mine already. I've still got most of it around my face, I probably think. So, but yeah, mine was double pepperoni. Pepperoni, isn't it? Oh, Judy says, tell you the page is frozen a second time. Oh, yeah, right, we've sorted that now. Hopefully it's not frozen at the moment. And Dominic says, bye, Jimmy. So, yeah, bye, Jimmy. Enjoy your pizza. Everybody else is staying around. Jimmy will have to watch back later. I just noticed something else about this. It's got 2 feet missing as well. It's only got 2 feet. That was 4. I've just spotted it, look. No, it's got those 2, but it's not got those 2. Oops! Oh dear! So we need 2 feet for it as well. I say it's the worst phone ever. This worst condition ever, but we are going to get it back. Right, that's about as far as I can really go with that at the moment, because I have got a dial here for it somewhere. Yeah, I've got a dial that we're going to fit to it, but I can't fit the dial until I've got the bells and the bell standoffs, and I've not found any of those out yet from my various boxes of spare parts. So I do need to find some of those, and I do know I've got a lot of circuit boards as well, but I do need to get one of those out as well. So that's about as far as I can go with the base tonight, but let's have a look now and see what's happened to this. And it doesn't really show up well on the camera, but it has kind of put a raised layer on there. So now let's try starting to sand that flat again, because it's a bit bobbly now. Now it's a raised layer. So what we do now is get a tiny bit of sandpaper, and I find it's best to either have very fine sandpaper, or you can have slightly rougher sandpaper if you've already used it a bit. Dominic says, is that worse than that poor old 706? I think this is worse than anything that I've ever done before this, Dominic. It's got so many problems, this has. Right, and as I'm starting sanding this, I'm feeling that it's not entirely dry, this. It still feels a bit draggy, the sandpaper, when you go over it. But I think it's dry enough to built, and you can now see it's showing up now where I'm sanding off the high points. And what we want really is to get it all so it's all sanded, and that will show then hopefully that it's flat. Christopher says his GPO 706 was missing the feet on the base when he got it. Yeah, why do the feet go missing so often? I wonder why. I think they may break off because they go through those little holes in the base, and I think they probably break off where they go through the holes, particularly on the metal based one because it's quite a sharp edge. And he says I put 4746 feet in the base of the 706. You know, they are the same anyway, Christopher. They are exactly the same feet, unless it's a very early 706, in which case I had what they call domed feet that don't have that kind of depression in the middle of them that later ones do. They're just sort of flat on the bottom. Right, are we getting anywhere? I think we are winning. Gradually. It's going to take a bit more sanding, but I think we are gradually winning. To move and just do it here a minute. Yeah, I think we'll end up getting away with this. Certainly looking better than it was. And then the challenge, of course, is to polish it all up again. Once you've made the crack disappear, the challenge then is to polish it again. It's not a quick process, and it's not the easiest of process. You do have to put some physical effort into it, and if this had not been an early 746 case, which are quite rare, I probably wouldn't have bothered. But it is, so I did. See that? Cleaning up, and what we want is all this mark across the middle to disappear. Really? That's what we're aiming for. So hopefully we'll get there at some stage with it. Put it on there now. I'm trying to put this chat back to the other chat. Yeah. Yeah, super chat is working. If anybody wants to send a super chat, you can. I've just discovered it's working. I had a look to see what it was doing, and it is working. Right. Right. Well, we are getting there. I don't know if you, I don't know how well you can see, but the mark that went down that side there has almost gone. You can still just see it there, but in a moment that would have disappeared, and you can see the other side of the triangle going towards me, split, and that's disappearing as well. So, what we don't want to do is sand across this line here, this line that goes all the way across here. We don't want to sand that line away, because that's a moulding line that is in all the phones. You know, it's a feature of the design of the phones, so we don't want that mark to disappear. Wesley says, might you have to add some more ABS slurry after initial sanding? It's possible, Wesley, although this one's actually looking quite good, but it's always possible. Again, just like when you body filler in a car, you don't always put quite enough on to start with, and when you sand it down you find some low spots that you have to put a bit more in. So it's exactly the same process, really, that you're doing. Dominic says, when the restrictions are over, do you plan to go on a staycation anywhere? That's a very good question, Dominic. I don't really. I've not really got any plans to do anything like that at the minute. I'm certainly not going abroad anywhere, mainly because I hate flying. I absolutely hate flying places. So I'm not going abroad anywhere, and I'm trying to discourage anybody else from going abroad anywhere as well, because personally I think the virus will be back. I've noticed in the last week or so it's stopped going down, although they say the numbers are still decreasing. If you look at worldometers.com, if you type into Google something like worldometers.com coronavirus, it gives you all the details of numbers and that for all the places in the world. If you look at the UK one and you look at the daily infections, you'll find for the last week or more it's leveled off. It's not going down, unlike it was before. Strangely, it stopped going down when Boris made his announcement that we were coming out of the lockdown. When he announced his steps to come out of lockdown, it stopped going down, and I think what happened was the British people suddenly went, oh, we're going to end the lockdown soon. Oh, well, tell you what, we might as well end it now. Oh, let's go on and see our friends and that. Because basically people are stupid. So yeah, the problem with the virus is you're having to deal with the stupid people that can't follow a few instructions and stuff. I mean, if people had all kept away from each other and that, we'd have got rid of it last summer. What I don't agree with about it is that we are now coming out of a lockdown and the daily case numbers are still higher than they were at the peak of the first wave in sort of April, May time last year. They're still way higher than they were at the peak of that first wave, and now they're talking about opening this, opening that, opening the other. And of course, when we had the first wave, they didn't open anything with those sort of numbers. So has it become more acceptable for 5,000 people a day to get the virus and a good percentage of them die? Is it just more socially acceptable to die now? I'm quite controversial. I would like to see the lockdown stay in place fully until a good way after Easter, I think. because places that have been very strict with it, such as the Isle of Man and also New Zealand, basically they're clear. I saw a bit of footage of New Zealand. Something was happening in New Zealand on the news the other night, and you know, there were big crowds of people indoors in New Zealand, no face masks or anything, because the virus isn't a problem now in New Zealand, because they've been very strict about kind of quarantining themselves, and it's paid off basically. As have the Isle of Man. I'm guessing some of you guys on here will know Big Clive of BigClive.com, who does his live streams and that, and his videos all about electronics projects and things. Well, he's based in the Isle of Man. He's based in Ramsey on the Isle of Man, and he often says that life is pretty much back to normal on the Isle of Man. Place I've never been, the Isle of Man. I would like to go there. They have the wonderful Manx electric railway trams on the Isle of Man that are well over 100 years old and still going strong. And I'd quite like to go and see them. Wesley says he hates flying too. I don't hate flying, Wesley. I hate crashing. That's the bit I'm not keen on. You know, it's not the falling out of the sky that hurts, it's a sudden stop at the bottom. That's what worries me. Dominic says, I'm looking to go to Ribblehead when we can move out and about. Yeah, I think we're actually allowed to go out quite soon, Dominic. I think the restrictions on movement actually end quite soon. So I think we're allowed to go out there. I am probably going to go to the coast because I've got a metal detector as well, and I've had some of the finds on here before, but I've got this metal detector, so I'd quite like to go to the coast and have a go with that, because I've not used it. I think I used it once last year, so I'd quite like to go to maybe Skegness. And we should, I believe, be back. I think we're back. Are we back? Yes, we're back. Wesley Pegden says, fly with Qantas. That's what Dustin Hoffman says. Why Qantas? They all crash. Does anybody know what airline has the most crashes? What's the name of the airline that has the most crashes? I know what it is. The airline that has the most crashes. Anybody got any ideas? It's an airline you will probably have heard of. You will almost certainly have heard of it. And it has more crashes than any other airline. In fact, almost every plane that flies crashes. I'll leave you pondering that one for a minute. Is that right? Christopher says there's no COVID cases now in Melbourne. That's great news, Christopher. So is Australia dealing with it quite well as well? I know New Zealand's dealing with it very well, but is Australia doing pretty much okay? Wesley says the Qantas reference is from the film Rain Man. It says they have the best record for not crashing. Cool. Wesley says, manufacturer or airline? Airline, Wesley. Which airline is the worst for crashing? Almost every plane that takes off with this airline has crashed. And it's an airline that is still intermittently around. It kind of comes and goes, but it is still intermittently around. Right, is that looking any better now, do we think? Where's the camera? This fools me every time which way to turn this round to see the camera. I don't know if you can see now, but basically the crack has disappeared. I know you can still see a bit of a mark where I put all the acetone down here, but can you see the crack has gone? You can't see exactly where that crack was anymore. Much better, says Wesley. That's it. Right. I'll tell you the thing about the airline. The airline with the most crashes, almost every plane that has ever flown with them has crashed. It's called Oceanic. And it's a trick. You'll have heard of Oceanic. You'll be thinking, where have I heard of Oceanic Airlines? And one place you've heard of Oceanic Airlines is in the TV show Lost. The plane that crashed on that was an Oceanic airliner. But they also crash in other things as well, because whenever film or television need to do a story where an airliner crashes, one of the safe names for an airline that they can use, because they know there is no airline with the name, is Oceanic. And in lots of movies and TV shows, almost everything you've ever seen where a commercial plane has crashed, it's been an Oceanic airliner. So check back and see how many things you can find with Oceanic airliners in. And also sometimes they use stock footage, and so if the plane says Oceanic on the side of it, they'll use a crash from one movie in another movie as well, and because it's all Oceanic, it's the right plane. So yeah, never get on an Oceanic airliner if you see one. They have a terrible record. Right, I think we're winning with this. Now that is pretty smooth now. That's not bad now. And we'll see how good that is, because what I'll do now is I will oh no I won't, so I've not got it in there. I was going to say I'll polish it with a bit of tea cut now, and we'll see how smooth that is. But perhaps it could just do with a touch more acetone slurry on it. So I think we'll put a bit more on. There's the neat acetone. There's the acetone slurry. Only Victoria in Australia. Christopher says he's not in lockdown. Right, so I'll change the camera again so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, well, paint on. My brush has gone hard. Dip it in the slurry stuff, it'll soften it up. I told you to go hard, didn't I? Right, there you go, that's better. There, I think that is probably now going to be okay. That's right, so I've put some more on, so we'll have another go. I'll also put a bit more on up there where that little hole was, so I can fill that a bit more. And I think with that we should be getting somewhere. So that's quite good. Put the top back on me acetone slurry. Oh, Michael T's in the house. He says, "Hi Andy, just tuned in. Has anyone sent in a pic of the golden shot yet?" No, they've not sent one of the golden shot yet, Michael. Nobody sent one of the golden shot. One or two people have sent photos. I will get round to the photos that you sent next week, guys, because a lot of them only arrived with me today, so I've not had time to put them on the system. So I have got photos from 2 or 3 of you, but I've not had a chance to put them on the system because they only arrived today, and I've been out and about most of today. So we'll go for those photos next week. So yeah, alright, I think that is starting to look a bit more like now. On the back of there, I've filled in that crack quite nicely, I think. And what I'm not sure how to do is how to deal with this warping on the front. Do I heat it up with a heat gun and try and get it to go back into place? Is that the way to do it? I'm not sure. I'm going to have a think about that one over this coming week, I think, and try and figure it out how we get that back into place. But then it'll be a case of polishing, and it'll probably take a bit of polishing as well, this, looking at it. So we are getting there gradually, and it's all down to the magic acetone. And remember, like I said, it needs to be pure acetone. You can sometimes get it out of the pound shop, but be careful, because they do sell it in very similar bottles and it's not pure acetone. If you look in the very tiny printing at the ingredients, it will often say aqua as the first thing, meaning that's the thing there is most of in it. And aqua, of course, is water, so you don't want that. What you want is 99% or pure acetone, which is what this is. If the acetone is weaker, it won't work so well. In fact, it probably won't work at all if it's mainly water. So there is our case, and there is our base so far as well. It's now got the ringer in it. What I've got to do is go away and, as I say, solder to that terminal there another wire like this black one, so another wire can come through like that to the back and into the circuit board that we've got to install, and then we can start adding some of the other bits and pieces back onto it as well. As I said, I have got a dial for it here. This is the dial 21. I've already restored this dial so it runs at the right speed. 1001, you see. Now this dial is actually it's actually not a dial 21, is it? Because it's one, if you look on the back there, it's got all of the contacts basically on one side, not so many on that side and so many on that side. This is one of the simplified dials, made I think by GEC, No, I don't think it's actually a 21. I think they give it another number. It says GEN, and what does it say on there? Can't see under these lights. Let's have a look up there. If I put it up there, I might be able to see under this camera up here. GEN. Can anybody see what that says? GEN, I think it's a 73-1 there. I think that's the date of manufacture sort of thing, but normally somewhere around the edge here it tells you the dial type. Maybe it doesn't on this one. Yeah, maybe it doesn't. But it's around about the right age, this dial. Just not the right. Who made this? SPK in 73. So it's around about the right age, this dial. Oh, I'm going out of focus now. Oh dear. There we go, that's better. It's around about the right age, this dial, for maybe not the entirely the correct manufacturer. But remember, when these phones end up going back to places like Cumcarn, where the post office had their remanufacturing facilities and refurbishing facilities, they could come out with bits from one manufacturer and other bits from another manufacturer anyway. So that's probably kind of quite par for the course. So that will eventually fit there somewhere. So we've got that. We've also got a handset, and we've also got a line cord for it as well. Here's a nice original line cord. No, not a line cord, a curly cord rather. Nice original one there. And if you look, when I was doing the black 706 a couple of weeks back, the bit that was missing was this metal bit on the end of this cord was missing. Now, thing to warn you about, I've noticed on eBay recently, somebody's now selling curly cords where this little metal bit, these little prongs on the side, are actually cast in the same rubbery plastic as the rest of the grommet here. So, you know, they basically done away with the metal bit and just made it all out of plastic. And I think you'll have a devil of a job fitting them, or you'll certainly never be able to get them out again easily. So if you see one that's not got that metal bit on, but that's plastic instead, steer clear of it, because it'll be a devil of a thing to fit, and it'll be even worse to try and unfit if ever you want to get it apart again. But it's another example of where the remanufacturers are cutting corners for no good reason. They are just cutting corners through sheer laziness, and it's why I will not buy pattern parts off anybody. You know, the modern parts, basically, if I get any, they go straight in the bin because they're just not worth fitting. So that's to go on it, and that's to go on it. And I've got a new old stock line cord down there as well. So yeah, so that's what we've got to so far with it. So we're not doing too bad. Right, so I think that's probably about as far as we go for today. Dominic says, is it a dial 24? It could be, Dominic. I'm not sure what they called it, that particular version of the dial. Wesley says, I got one of those cords for the yeoman. Angela, it's actually really good quality, believe it or not. Yeah, but have you tried unfitting it again, Wesley? That cord. Try taking it off again, because I don't think you'll be able to twist it to pull it back out of the handset again. I don't think it'll twist and pull out again with it being plastic. I think it'll just all kind of bend and wobble about, and you'll not be able to do the kind of twisting through whatever it is, 20 degrees or whatever it is, to pull it out of the handset again. I think once it's in, it'll be stuck in forever. They'd have been better not to put that on and just have one like without the metal bit on, or without anything resembling the metal bit on. Just put the cord in, and like I was going to do on that 706 the other week, just put a cable tie around it to hold it in. Then when you want to get it out again, just cut the cable tie off and it'll just pull out. Dominic says, weren't later 80s curly cords all plastic? They may have been, Dominic. They may be following one of the cheapening moves that the manufacturers did in the 80s, because, as you know, they made very cheap versions of the dials later on. They made very cheap versions of all sorts of parts later on. They did all kinds of tricks to make stuff cheaper. Basically, they did it around about the time you started buying your phones, rather than them being rented, because when the phones were rented, they had to be of a high quality. Otherwise, engineers would have to keep going out to them and fixing them if they were low quality. And they didn't want to have to send engineers out, because obviously sending engineers out is very expensive. So, when your phones were rented, they were very high quality. As soon as sort of early to mid 80s came along and you started buying phones, they then let everything get very lax, because you bought the phone and then when it broke, it was your problem. They didn't have to send an engineer out anymore. So they started allowing all kinds of really rubbishy plastic phones and that around about that time. Right, I'm just reading what everybody's saying in the chat. Wesley says he does remove that curly cord that's got the plastic end on. He says it's less malleable than the original ones, but it has been in and out. Oh, okay then, that's fine, that's okay then. Christopher says, did you get my email on the picture of the Basil faulty banging the 746 handset on the fire alarm? Yes, I did, Christopher. Like I say, we'll put all the pictures up next week, because I've not had a chance to sort of ingest them into the system here yet. Wesley says, I kept the old metal one for yours if you still need it. Brilliant, Wesley. May well take you up on that. I wonder if you can get them off. Can you get them off, the metal bit? Because it's kind of a crimp, isn't it? It's kind of crimped on. I've never tried that, but that metal bit, where's the camera again? That metal piece is kind of crimped on there, isn't it? So I don't know if you can get them off or not successfully. I shall experiment with that this week, Wesley, and see what happens, because I've got some damaged line cord somewhere. I never throw anything away, because I always feel I might be able to do something with it at some point. So I've got some damaged line cords somewhere. I'll try getting one of those crimps off and see if I can get it, because I have got some here. If I can get them off the old damaged line cords and put one onto that black one. That black one is the only one I've ever come across that's not got it, and it surprised me when I came to the show the other week and fitted it and found it hadn't got it on there. I thought, oh, what's going on here then? Because I hadn't noticed until that point. Regarding the phones in films, Dominic says that you remember seeing the Ali G film, which is from the early 2000s, and that has an Ivory 8782 in it. Quite late, do you think? Yeah, it is quite late, isn't it, for any 700 series film? That is quite late. But it was probably put there by a prop house, you see. That there are these big companies. If ever you get a chance to go to a what they call a prop house, the people that supply props for film and television, if ever you get a chance to go and visit one, go, because they are the most fascinating places. They're usually a huge warehouse somewhere, and they are stacked from floor to ceiling with every kind of item you can imagine. And you say to the people that run them, you say, show me a telephone, and they'll take you, and they'll have like a shelf with 1,000 different telephones on it. And then you say to them, show me a wine glass, and they'll take you to a shelf that's got 10,000 different wine glasses on it. And you say to them, show me a sofa, and then they'll take you to a bit of the warehouse and they've got like 500 different sofas. They're just amazing places. They really are. There's nothing that they've not got in these prop places. And then you say to them something crazy like show me a disintegration ray as used by an alien, and they'll take you, and they'll have half a dozen sort of zapper phaser gun things. And there's absolutely nothing they've not got. They're fantastic places. And somebody will have said, oh, I'm working on the LG movie, I need a phone, and the prop house have gone, right, and just grabbed one, and that's probably what they got. So yeah, that's in the Ali G the movie, isn't it? Or something like that. Oh dear. I thought Ali G had gone away. I thought we'd got rid of Ali G. Mr. Blobby will be coming back next. Yeah. So I still think Richard Madeley was the best ever Ali G. If you've never seen that, look on YouTube. I'm sure it must be on YouTube. Just type in Richard Madeley Ali G. He does it. Richard Madeley does Ali G better than Sacha Baron Cohen does Ali G. It's brilliant. Right. I think we're about there. Cracking 16 people in the chat at the minute. It must be a record, that. Right, so we've basically done this. We've basically done this phone. We've got it as far as I think we can probably get it today. That is still a little bit tacky on the back, so no, it's not too bad. Right, before we go, we'll give that another sand and see where we get to. And then it'll be time to go. I'm going to take a bit of sanding down this time. Put a bit more on, I think, than I did before, but you see, it's going. Yeah. Christopher says he thinks that Ericsson that he's got is a prototype of the XN1900. I'm not sure about that, Christopher. I doubt it, personally. I think it's just a variation of it. Maybe it's a less common variation, but I think it is just a variation of it, because there were lots of variations of those on N1900 phones. So that N1970B that you've got, I think, is just a variation of the N19 something that they did. But I doubt it'll be a prototype. I think it will be a rare variation that maybe they didn't make many of, or maybe indeed they did only make that one. But I don't think it will have been a prototype. Right. A little electric detail sander would probably be good for this, because it's very hard work doing it manually. Some people used to say sand round and round in circles, but I find when you do that on a phone, you can never get the marks out. It's much easier to get the marks out if you go the same way all the time. And also much easier to do. You know, if you can sit there doing this like this rather than doing that motion is harder to do than that motion. Right, I think we're getting somewhere. Where are you? There? What does that look like? It does need more sanding, but we are on the winning side of this, I think. Doopy-doopy-doo. So we'll get there eventually. Just to tell you, while we've been talking about things I might be doing after lockdown and that, the people that organised Sheffield Steam Rally were in touch with me a couple of weeks ago, and it is on. It is kind of, I think it's last full weekend in June, and as things stand at the minute, with Boris's roadmap of the lifting of restrictions and things, as things stand at the moment, that event is going to be on. So it's last full weekend in June. It's held at a place called North Anston near Dinnington, which is sort of a few miles away from Sheffield. But if anybody wants to go to Sheffield Steam Rally, you'll find us there. We are going to be there live, and I will be there with a stand with lots of the phones out of the loft on it, on display. So that's one for your diary. Last weekend in June, Sheffield Steam Rally, North Anston near Sheffield, and you can see some of the residents of the loft live. We normally empty a fair proportion of the loft to do that, and I'll be there as part of a stand with the Sheffield Collectors Club, that's a bunch of people who collect all kinds of things. So there'll be other collectors of other things there as well. There's a guy that collects Mammoth steam toys, Mammoth steam vehicles, Mammoth steam engines and stuff. And we have old sewing machines there, vintage Singer sewing machines and all kinds of things. So last weekend in June, Sheffield Steam Rally, put it in your diary, come and see us. Right, I think this is getting there. Dominic says, I'm also having a pizza tonight. Oh, very good, Dominic. What flavour? Christopher says, I see no picture of an Ericsson N1 970B phone on Google and no video on YouTube. Yeah, just because there's no picture and no video, Christopher, doesn't mean they don't exist. In truth, there probably are pictures and video of them on there, but nobody knows what they are. People have just put them on and said they're a 706 because they've not looked into it as much as you have, in the way that they get sold on eBay as 706s when they're not. Unless you're an expert, you don't know these things, you don't notice. Dominic says, I feel sorry for Heritage Railways. They've had a really rough time without passengers, and UK coal might dry up if the Cumbrian mine is scrapped. I don't think coal will ever dry up, Dominic. I think there's plenty of uses for coal. A lot of them don't use UK coal now anyway. A lot of them use coal that they've got from Russia and places like that. the quality of the coal is a problem. I once went on the Wells Walsingham Railway, which is a little miniature railway out in Norfolk, and the train was very, very late, and when it arrived, where I was waiting to get on it at was I at the Wells end or the Walsingham end? I think I was at the Walsingham end. When it arrived, the excuse for it being about 2 hours late was that they'd got coal that didn't burn. And I thought, how can you have coal that doesn't burn? That's ridiculous. But it was true. He showed me, and he threw coal into the firebox of this little steam engine, and it just didn't burn. And it was a bad batch that they'd got from somewhere. You know, a batch of more like slate than coal. It was that was going in. It was really not good at all. So I think you'll always be able to get coal, but whether it'll always burn on a steam engine or not is a different matter. But heritage railways are more and more moving away from steam, I find, and the steam engine will still be there, but I think the day-to-day service will be operated by diesels and that in the future, because a lot of them are going that way. And also, heritage railways make money out of nostalgia. Basically, that's what they're selling. People go to see something that they can remember, and people now, there are not so many people around now who can remember steam trains. I can't remember steam trains. There were no steam trains when I was born on the main line. They'd all gone by then. And so to me, I know far more about diesel engines and electric engines than I do steam trains, because the stuff that I grew up with was things like Class 47s and Class 37s and 86s and stuff like that. And my big gripe with heritage railways is they will spend hundreds of thousands of pounds, sometimes millions of pounds, restoring a locomotive, but when you go and visit, 9 times out of 10 you are sitting in a fairly unrestored, grotty Mark 1 or even worse Mark 2 coach that's not had a penny spent on it. And I think they'd be better off spending money on the rolling stock maybe than so much money on the locomotives. I don't mind being pulled along by a diesel engine if I'm sat in a Pullman coach. And for that reason, I tend to go to heritage railways when they're running a DMU, because generally the DMU is more interesting to sit in than the same tourist second open Mark 1 or Mark 2 coach that you can sit in at pretty much any preserved railway at any time. So I would much rather go to places like the Keighley and Worth Valley and sit in their little rail bus thing that they run occasionally, or the beautifully restored DMU on the Llangollen. Is it a Cravens or is it a Wickham? That because it's something different to ride in, rather than go behind Flying Scotsman in some grotty Mark 1 coach. Because if you're 10 coaches away from the loco, you don't know what's pulling it anyway. But how about somebody maybe preserving a HST set? I know there's been some power cars preserved, but power cars no good without the coaches. How about somebody preserving a full HST set? That's what somebody ought to be doing. And restoring the whole set. Michael T says he bought a Mammoth in £2,099 from Hawkins Bazaar. Solid fuel now. My brother had the car. Liquid fuel spill risk. That's part of the fun of it though, Michael. I've got a couple, and I will only have the ones that run on methylated spirits. part of the fun of it. It's part of the originality of it, isn't it? The methylated spirits, those little fuel tablets, they are no fun at all. It's like running it on mothballs. Dominic says, all Great Western engines are particularly fussy with coal, as they are all designed with the best Welsh steam coal in mind. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know Great Western ones were particularly fussy, but quite a few seem to be fussy about it. So it may become a problem for them. But you've also got to remember, as those engines get older and older and older and older, there will come a time where, to preserve them for the future, they will have to kind of not run them as much and maybe run newer stuff, which people will want anyway, because there's, like I say, the younger generation now, there's more people going to diesel garners than there were 20 years ago, for instance. A heck of a lot more people going diesel garners than there were. And then, of course, there will always be the people building replicas, things like Tornado, which they'll have to design to run on whatever fuel is available, perhaps. Maybe something like gas. Maybe they'll have some kind of biodiesel burner, you know. But there's ways and means of doing it. I don't think the preserved railways are going anywhere. I think they've got too much of a following to be really at risk. There's a lot of people, some of whom have got a lot of money and bequest them a lot of money, and that I think they'll be okay. I'm more worried about little local museums and stuff like that than I would be about preserved railways, because I think when people are allowed out, I think we're like letting the cork out of a bottle, and I think thousands of people will descend on every tourist attraction under the sun. Right, let's have a look. What do we think? It's getting there again, isn't it? I'll give that a bit of a buff up over this week, and I'll show you how it's turned out back here, same time, same place next week. Dominic says, yeah, coaches are a real problem. The Bluebell and Isle of Wight are good for vintage coaches. Yeah, I've not been on the Blue. In fact, I don't think I've ever been on the Bluebell. I've not been on the Isle of Wight for a long time. There's another one that's good for vintage coaches. Is it the Severn Valley that's got some rakes of vintage coaches? Who's got the Gresley rake of coaches? You know, all the teak ones. Which railway's that's got a rake of those? That's quite impressive. Christopher says, in Australia, Metro Train have been testing an old 1920 electric train called the Melbourne Red Rattler train on the 2021 train network. Yeah, I can't see. I would think that'll probably work as well, won't it, Christopher? Old trains will run on new networks. It doesn't necessarily always work the other way around. Michael T says, fuel tablets last a long time after water tank is empty. Yeah, but you don't want to last a long time after the water tank is empty though, do you? Otherwise your engine explodes. You want the fuel to die before the water tank becomes empty, don't you? And Christopher says the steam loco there that's been converted to burn oil rather than coal. SVR in North Yorks, Dominic says, are the ones with the Gresley sets. Is it two then? Is there two Gresley sets? That's interesting. I'll tell you something there's a prototype for. And I've not seen a preserved railway dare do it, but I would do it because I do quite like to upset the gricers every now and again. The restaurant cars, the Gresley restaurant cars, survived long enough in revenue operation that some of them got the BR blue-grey livery. Would any preserved railway dare do it? I think it'd look quite good, that. I think more of them should do prototypical but unconventional things, because they all seem to paint their coaches maroon. That god-awful maroon that fades about 8 hours after you've put it on the bloody coach. You paint it on, you go away, have a cup of tea. Not only has it dried, it's also faded. That maroon colour is terrible, and they all use that maroon colour. Oh God, that's the nice thing about the Bluebell, of course. Being in the south, they don't use it. They tend to paint theirs green. But that maroon livery is the most god-awful livery for a public transport vehicle I've ever seen. BR maroon, which is basically LMS Crimson Lake as well, isn't it? It's the same thing, more or less. Dominic says, interestingly, GWR tried oil firing conversion just before nationalisation, but it was found not to be a great success. Yeah, oil firing, I don't know what makes it not successful, but the Festinio tried it as well in recent years, and I think it was not a success on there either. I think they turned theirs back to coal firing. I believe the Garretts, the big Garretts that the Festinio got for operation on the Welsh Highland, I believe when they first came into service they were oil fired, and I think they've now turned them into coal fired. Dominic says, yes, he's heard about the blue-grey Gresleys. Even stranger was by then they were regular visitors to the Bristol area. Cool. They got about a bit then, they did. Yeah, but there aren't many blue-grey sets around, and I think there should be more. Because again, it's what I remember. It's what I kind of grew up with. You see, blue-grey. So it's what I kind of remember. So it's kind of what I'd like to see. Yeah, let's have it's really warped, this phone. It's really warped. Right. Pull that screw back in. Yes. Cool. Right. I think we've got that back together now as best we can, and it's approaching 8 o'clock. Dominic says it doesn't look right having steam in front of a rake of Mark IIs. No, it doesn't. And it doesn't look right when they paint Mark IIs colours they weren't as well. It says what is needed is a heritage railway that specialises in the 70s and 80s era. The Mid-Norfolk, I think, would do well if they focused on blue-grey. Yeah, for a while Peak Rail had a rake of blue-grey stock and it looked very good. But I think they've painted theirs maroon, or at least some of them they've painted maroon. I hate that maroon colour. I really do hate that maroon. It's hot. I've got nothing against maroon as a colour when it's with other things, but there's that drab maroon. It's god awful. Really is bad. It'd be better painting them black than painting them maroon. Chris says Melbourne had old 1940s SW6 class restaurant trams up until 2019. Yeah, I've heard about these. What's that? Do they not have them anymore then? Have they gone? What's happened to the Melbourne restaurant trams? They were well famous. I thought they'd be around forever. The Melbourne restaurant trams. They were fantastic things. Yeah, as indeed were many of the Melbourne trams that seem to have been around forever. But progress moves on, and you see, we had a similar problem, Christopher, here in the UK. I don't know if you're aware, but we had a tramway here in the UK. It was the last traditional tramway in Britain, the Blackpool to Fleetwood tramway, at a seaside resort on the west coast. And they had a brilliant fleet of trams, all basically dating from the 1930s. And then along came the European Union and said, by this date, all your public service vehicles have got to be wheelchair accessible. So you've got to spend millions and millions of pounds upgrading your tramway and putting ramps at all the stations, and you've got to have all these new vehicles with low floors, and because a disabled person in a wheelchair might want to get on one. Well, nobody's got on one in the last 120 years, so why would they want to start now? So, of course, what they did in Blackpool, they spent millions and millions and millions. Many of you who've been will know. They spent millions of pounds on it. They've now got all these what I call plastic caterpillar trams. They've kept a very small number of the original trams that they still run just every now and again on a tour. But basically, the service is run by these horrible plastic caterpillar things. They've totally wiped out all the character that the tramway had, including demolishing some of the 100-plus-year-old buildings that were on the line that were used as what they call stations, but actually tram stops. Totally destroyed all the character that the thing had as a heritage asset that was known across the world as the last traditional tramway, and totally destroyed it. And as a consequence, I, who used to take a trip from here to Blackpool maybe 4 or 5 times a year, haven't been now since 2012. So that's just me as a tourist. They've lost my business. How many other people's business have they lost? And you know something? Get on those plastic caterpillars. Does anybody in a wheelchair get on them? Do they? Answer: no. They bloody well don't. Christopher says the Yarra Tram Company said the 1940s restaurant trams were unsafe for service. What a load of tosh. Go and tell the Yarra Tram Company they are talking absolute rubbish. Why did they not maintain them if they were unsafe for service? If they've been running since 1940 and they're still there, they've obviously not crashed, they're still there. If they've been going since 1940, I would say they're probably the most safe vehicle that you can have, because they've been going for what? 80 years and they're still going. So if you sat in one of those vehicles in 1940, you could still be sat in it now not having been in a crash, not having blown up or anything. Fat Hobbit says, I agree, Andy, I agree. Very sad. Vandalism. Yes, it was, Fat Hobbit. Absolute vandalism. I won't have anything to do with the town of Blackpool. And they're making it worse. There's a brilliant guy on YouTube who, he just walks around Blackpool making videos, basically. I forget what the fella's name is. What does he call himself? I don't know. But if you just type in something like Blackpool Walks into YouTube, it's a fellow with glasses. And he's brilliant, and he just walks around Blackpool, and he doesn't necessarily walk around the tourist areas. He walks around all of it, including the very seedy areas of it as well. And he just documents Blackpool. He puts like a couple of videos up a week of that, and he just documents what's going on in Blackpool all the time. And it's very sad to see the state of Blackpool. Basically, they've invested a lot of money in it in recent years, and they've invested it in all the wrong things. And okay, it may have tidied it up a bit, but it's destroyed its character as a town, I think. Graham Townsend says, Andy, got your dander up? Yes. I'm having my weekly rant at the moment, Graham. Yes. About the European Union. The Blackpool trams, I'll tell you now, the Blackpool trams and the fact the Euro idiots said that they had to have modern vehicles and you couldn't run these 1930s vehicles anymore and you had to be wheelchair accessible. That is why I voted leave at Brexit. That is the main reason I voted leave at Brexit. Stop the Europeans telling us what to do. Right, just bear with me 1 second. I've got a phone call coming in, and strangely, sorry about that. Get your phone calls in the middle of everything now, you see. Dear me, going absolutely bonkers. It wasn't even a CDEC call, that. Right, yes. So yeah, the Blackpool trams and the vandalism that's been done to Blackpool is the reason that I voted leave at Brexit. And basically, I say, blow up the Channel Tunnel. And I've never been to Europe. I don't want to go to Europe. I've got absolutely no intention of ever going to Europe. I don't want anything from Europe. I don't want to take anything to Europe. I couldn't care less if France vaporises immediately, provided it doesn't vaporise us over here as well. So, really don't care about Europe. Really don't care. I would gladly put a few million tons of concrete down the Channel Tunnel tonight. What would be better is if we had a tunnel to America. That would be far better. Then I could go to places like San Francisco, where you can still hang off the side of cable cars and stuff like that. And nobody goes in San Francisco, do they? Excuse me, you can't run those cable cars anymore because this person in a wheelchair over here that's never been to San Francisco might want to come in 20 years and might want to ride on one of those trams, and they can't because they're in a wheelchair, so you've got to get rid of them all now. Yes. That's what I think about it. What I say is, if all the wheelchair users really do want to ride on everybody else's public transport, they should not get pissed off when I ring the dialer bus up in the morning because it's raining and I want to go shopping. Now that really would be equal inclusion, wouldn't it? Ooh, controversial. Yeah. Dominic says Blackpool's lost its semaphore signals too. Yeah, they've lost everything, Blackpool have recently. Christopher says Melbourne had old 1940s SW6 class city centre trams up until 2019, and now they're not in service. And the old 1940s SW6 City Circle has been replaced with restored SW6 class City Circle trams. Yeah, well, that's what they should do. They should restore the old trams. There's a movie, isn't there, about the trams in Melbourne? Is it called Malcolm? I've seen it once. It's been on television over here once. I don't think it's ever been on again. Quite a funny film about the Melbourne trams, with all the old trams on in Melbourne. About this guy called Malcolm who works in the tram depot. Yeah. It's one to look for, that. If anybody finds a copy of Malcolm, can you let me know, please? Because I've not seen it it must be 30 years since I've seen Malcolm. But I think it's called Malcolm. It's all about the Melbourne trams. And in the end, he leaves Melbourne and he ends up in a Porto, I think, because it's the only other place that's got traditional trams there. Right, I think we've about come to the end of the road for today. Right, I've had my rant for the week now. You'll be pleased to know, Graham. So we're all good to go now. But yes, they've basically taken the heart out of Blackpool, and that. I am just waiting for them to stop the illuminations, because of course illuminations are not good for the environment, and they're using all that electricity and that. So can't have them anymore. We'll just have to have painted light bulbs, painted with water-based paint though, not with oil-based paint, because that's bad. Have to have water-based paint, painted light bulbs in the illuminations, and go through them in the daytime, so you don't have to switch them on. Yeah. What are YouTube going to demonetize this, aren't they? Right, I think that is about as far as we go today. Thanks to everybody for watching the show tonight. There's 14 people in the chat still. It must be some kind of a record, that. As I say, thanks to everybody who also helped us get to that magic 1,000 subscribers mark. We are just over it now, but there's still room for you to like and subscribe somewhere down there-ish if you've not done so already. And also, if you want to catch up on some back episodes and stuff, why not go and have a look at our website, andyshed.colepress.net, and you'll find some back episodes and some other stuff there. And of course, you can get in touch with us through the Contact Us page on there as well. Remember, if you want to support the show, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/AndyShed. It starts at just $1, which is around about 80 pence in the UK, per month. Every little helps that we get on Patreon, and we are going to be launching something new soon as well that will just be for Patreon subscribers. So watch out for that. And also remember, we've got the shop as well, andsemporium.colepress.net, with a few phone spares and things in it if you've got any phones you want to restore. And if you want us to restore the phones for you, remember, you can always send them in here, but get in touch with us before you do so. You can always send them in here and we'll restore them for a small fee, as indeed one lady has done this week. She has sent a phone in for restoration. Joe, your phone is here, all done now and working, and that will be wending its way back to you tomorrow, hopefully, when I can get to the post office. As I was saying before I got rudely interrupted by the stream drop-in, that is as far as we go today. Thanks very, very much for joining us, and thanks particularly to all the people who you can see down there in the chat who have all taken part as well. We will be back here with another Andy Shed Live around about the same time, same place next Sunday evening, 6 o'clock UK time. In the meantime, if you want to join us for the Virtual Repair Cafe on Thursday on Zoom, the Zoom meeting number that you have to type in is 806 999 4444. That's 806 999 4444. And that will be coming live from the loft. Whee! Right, we will see you next week for what will hopefully be a slightly less ranty edition of Andy's Shed Live. But until then, from me, thanks for watching, and we'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.